When does the fantasy start?
Hi, and welcome to Nothing Adventured, Nothing Gained. How exciting! Yeah, welcome. So this is the first episode of the podcast. It's going to be an actual play podcast focusing around storytelling set in what I intend to be a slightly darker world that you will all be experiencing for the first time, along with the characters that the other guys here are going to bring to life. So I think, without further ado, it's probably time to go into introductions. We'll all introduce ourselves, I think. I'll make a start. So I'm Jack. I'll be the DM. GM, I suppose, seeing as we're not going to be in many dungeons, I don't expect. And I'll be leading this band of degenerates. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume ahead of time.
I prefer the term miscreant. Thank you very much.
I prefer the term idiots.
More accurate.
All are probably true. Around the world of Talinost, we're going to be using the low fantasy gaming rule system in a homebrew world that I've created. So, who wants to introduce himself next?
I will go. I currently actually playing a campaign with Jack. That's how I know him. And for this adventure, I will be playing Elias, the magic user.
Lovely. Thanks, John.
I am Mark. I'm John's brother, younger brother, sexier brother, arguably. And I will be playing Gary, the half-scorn barbarian.
What's your full name?
Gary Nash, but everyone calls him Gary. Just don't even bother. He's called Gary. He's Gary the barbarian.
I just think it kind of enriches the fantasy.
Don't even
to get his
worry
full
about
name.
it.
Oh, but it's low fantasy. We don't want to enrich it.
I don't want too much fantasy. This is low fantasy.
But it's not no fantasy.
That would be a boring system. It's no fantasy gaming.
It'd be a weird name as well.
This is the
We
worst
just go
system.
to work and then come home and then go to the pub maybe. That's it. So I'll go next, I guess. Hi, I'm Beth. I am playing a elven ranger called Nylathria. Short name is Nyla. And yeah, I'm kind of new to this outside world of not being in a forest.
And I am Johnny, and I know Jack from a campaign that we played together for about 3 years a while back. Was that the first campaign that you ran, Jack?
It was. It was my first ever campaign that I ran as a DM.
And it was very, very awesome. And I am playing Grandal Hammerlock.
Who
Now
is
that's a
a...
name.
That's a hell of a name.
I'm very pleased with it. He is a loner, thief, con dwarf, rather than con man.
Yeah.
Con artist.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bit of a wily devil.
Yeah, this is my first attempt with low fantasy gaming as well. So
Well, we're all
I'm still
new to it.
wrapping my head around
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
so I suppose that's probably worth mentioning, actually. So this is the first time any of us have used low fantasy gaming. When we were kind of thought of the idea of doing a podcast, I think it was John and I originally kind of said we've been wanting to do one for a while. And so we kind of put the feelers out, tried to find some people who would be up for it. And I put together a kind of little questionnaire to see what the kind of vibe of the story everyone wanted was. And a lot of people said that... you guys all said that you wanted something that's a little bit darker, a little bit more, not super serious, but had like a bit more of a bit of bite to it in terms of like consequences to your actions, that sort of thing. And because of that, and I just really liked the idea of having a world where magic really comes with a price, and there's not really, things you do have big consequences in terms of like getting injured. So with all of that kind of pulled together, I found the low fantasy gaming system. It's something I actually backed on Kickstarter, and thought we would use that one and see how it goes. We are all 5th edition players, I think. Johnny and I actually...
Sure.
Yeah, so Johnny and I actually played 4th edition originally, and then I switched over to 5th edition when I started playing D&D with John, and I think Mark and Bex both play 5th edition campaigns as well.
Yeah, me and Mark
I'm
played
about to.
2nd edition for many, many years.
Oh,
A
of
long
course,
time.
yeah.
And this is very, very similar. This whole game's very, very similar to 2nd edition.
Yeah,
It's very
definitely.
gritty. It's old school. That's what I'm liking about it. It's quite brutal.
I cut my teeth on 3.5, so kind of the nicer.
Yes,
Yeah.
Apart from lots of 4 with Jack, some 5, and I'm actually starting my own campaign soon in 5th edition. I played 2nd edition, but I only played it once, and it was when I was about 11, so I do not really recall it in terms of the technicalities of the rules and how they work.
But yeah, I think as I said, this is going to be a learning experience for us, and hopefully you will bear with us when we have questions about the rules.
We'll obviously need to explain the rules to the audience as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we know that nerds
Yes.
love some rules explaining.
They do.
My lord, they love
do.
numbers.
Yeah.
Good lord.
Speaking of numbers, what a perfect opportunity for a segue, Mark.
Ah,
The first thing we have to do is rolling of stats. So obviously, as you've all heard, everybody's kind of come up with the character concept. They've all chosen their race and their class. One of the things, though, that is kind of the next big obvious step is to get their stats. There is a mechanic here for rolling stats, which is quite common to all role-playing games, tabletop ones. And that's what we're going to do now. So I think if you want to kind of roll your stats, and then we'll kind of go through what everybody's managed to get.
so you start with an automatic 15 in one of them.
Yes, that's true, actually. You're right.
So we were doing 4d6, are we?
46, drop the lowest one. And for those interested, we have the attributes of strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, willpower, perception, and charisma. So obviously you've got, instead of just wisdom, you have it split into 2 of willpower and perception, which I find quite interesting.
Yeah.
Big difference over 5th edition there.
Yeah, that definitely harks back to the older editions, I think, doesn't it? With the way that
I think
broken
absolutely,
down.
yeah.
they had it more broken down, didn't they? So are we all just like going mad? Should we just roll
Yeah.
these bones?
Just roll all the
Yeah.
dice.
Yeah.
I'm actually
absolutely.
rolling really well, and I wish I was
Nice.
recording it because I never roll this well ever.
See, I did it on my own a few weeks back.
I got
And,
all 18s.
It was all 18, so it's
I
the
did
weirdest
all
thing.
18. I didn't.
I've never seen anything like
It
it.
was very good. Like
I'm rolling good
I
though.
got like
That one's not good.
15s
Wow.
and mostly 13s. And my first roll so far has been a 10. So
Oh, well.
My first roll was also a 10. It gets better.
okay, let's see if it does.
I've got a 5.
Oh.
Got 5.
Ooh,
Oh.
hello.
I'm rolling decidedly averagely. I'm gonna go down. One more. Come on, 18. Ooh. Ooh. No, that's a 9. I got bad stats, you guys.
Yay!
Well, how are we using the mechanic, Jack, where we can take another player's role?
Yeah, I think so. I don't want you guys to have like one person who's just like god level and the rest of you are just awful. That would be so boring for the ones that are awful, I think. Whilst it would probably make a hilarious podcast, I don't think it'd be very fun for you guys to play.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about these rolls. I rolled a 15, an 11, 14, 2 7s, a 13, and a 9.
Yeah, the 2 7s are an issue.
That's nasty.
Yeah, that's nasty.
Something for people that haven't used the low fantasy gaming system before and who have got a kind of awareness of how the modifiers work for 5th edition might be interested to know that the modifiers for the scores are actually different to kind of what we would expect in 5th edition. So for this one, you have 3 to 4 is a -3 modifier, 5 to 6 is a -2 modifier, 7 to 8 is a -1 modifier, 9 to 12 is a -0 modifier. Then you have 13, 14 is +1, 15, 16 is +2, and 17, 18 is +3, with any scores that go above 19 having a +4. So one of the things that John just mentioned a second ago is that there's the mechanic where if someone rolls a really good array, the other players can kind of take that array on for themselves.
Becky's array is looking pretty good.
Yes,
right
it
about
is.
now.
Did you just call me Becky?
Sorry, Becky.
That's because
Rebecca. It's
Please.
Rebecca. Sorry.
No, it's not. Do not do me like this,
no
Mark.
one want my 5 then?
Your 5 does look pretty
So
good.
17 is tasty, John, but the 5
That
is
is
not
tasty.
so much.
I like big numbers.
John's is looking pretty good. He's got a 17 and a 16.
Yeah, John's is very nice. Apart
Looking
from
real
that 5.
nice.
It's just that 5, man.
That 5 is nasty.
That 5 sucks.
But yeah, like obviously, as we've said, pick an array of any of the arrays that everyone's rolled.
Are you rolling the reduction though?
I will. Let me have a look. Let's see what we get. Cross your fingers, guys.
Come on.
I legit rolled a 1.
Yay!
Sweet.
Good job, everyone.
Okay, so what does a 4 in intelligence give me?
So
Minus
4 in
2.
intelligence would give you
Oh,
minus 3.
Can I
Barely.
still use languages?
I
that's
Basically
kind
the
of-
same as the front
honestly
of the book.
don't know.
I don't think you'd be able to write.
Don't think I'd be able to write.
What?
Well, I'm not a nerd. I'm a
Four?
fucking barbarian.
What? 4 in
Just, hey,
intelligence?
you asked a fucking question.
What kind of nerd do you think I am?
Mark, is that a 4 in intelligence?
Actually, do you know what? I'm going to take John's. And I'm going to take that -1 to the 11.
Because that drops it down to the same modifier anyway.
Yeah,
Yes, it
that's a good
does.
shout.
So I'm going to put 5 in intelligence, 17 to strength, 16 to con, 15 to dex, 14 to perception, 10 to willpower, 10 to charisma. Boom. Character. Done.
Yeah, me
Nice.
too.
Nice.
I am going to take Vex's, and I'm going to take the -1 to one of the 15s. So,
That's a good shout.
yeah.
Take the -1 to the
So-
10 because it's still a 0 modifier.
Yeah.
Does that work out the same, does it? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
In fact,
yeah.
even
Yeah,
2 of the
sure.
12s would do the same thing as well.
Or the 16. Yeah.
No, I'm going to take it to the 10 because that's probably going to be intelligence or something, and it
Do you know
allows for a
Vex
bit more sort
is
of stupid character.
4 plus 2 stats.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, right?
Mm-hmm. Very rounded, but you don't have that +3 stat.
No, I mean, that is the bad. But, I'll take being above average consistently to being really good at one thing and then...
Yeah, that's the thing. It'll be good to have a slightly more well-rounded group. I think, obviously, if everyone had exactly the same stats, it would be a bit weird.
Well, it's no different than 5th edition with point buy,
Yeah, exactly. This is it's almost a more randomized version of point buy.
Almost like we rolled dice.
It is. It's weird, isn't
Literally
it?
a luck-based
The
game.
weirdest thing.
All right, John. Not John. Mark.
That was Mark.
See, now this is going to be an issue because me and John, I'm told, sound almost identical.
You kind of do.
It's almost like your
Yeah.
brothers or something. It's weird.
Almost.
Brothers.
That was beautiful. It made me tear up.
Cool. So, Bex, are you
Yeah,
sticking
do
with
you
your
run your
array?
Yeah, gosh darn. Yes, I am. Sorry, why is that? So do you want me to run through my stats?
Yes, please. Yeah. What are you assigning to where?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm rangering. So obviously things like dex and perception are pretty important to me. So I've
Yeah.
gone 12 in strength, 16 in dex, 15 in con, 15 in intelligence, 12 in willpower, 16 in perception because I've got those good elf eyes. And my charisma is a flat 10 because I'm not that good at talking. I'm okay. I'm average. I'm all right.
You're decidedly average.
I'm the most average I've ever been. And I'm cool with that,
Yeah. And
Fine.
so, John, are you sticking with your array? Is the good question.
Hell yeah. I want that +3 in intelligence.
Yeah, I figured you would. All them extra
Yeah.
spells.
1 extra spell.
Well, I mean, 1 extra spell is better than only 2 spells.
That's what we all say.
Yep.
That's a famous phrase. It's on catchphrase the other night, I'm sure.
Cool. So, Johnny, do you want to go? Johnny, not Johnny. John, do you want to go through what you've put your stats in?
I will once I do that. So my strength is 10. So and that gives me a 0 modifier. My dexterity is 16, which is +2. Constitution 14 +1. Intelligence 17 +3. Willpower 15 +2. Perception 14 +1.
Ooh.
Charisma.
Dumping charisma.
5 -2.
Wowzers.
Wowzers.
You are not a charismatic fellow.
So fuck y'all.
So wait, so who
Be my
is the
check.
most charismatic out of you guys?
The barbarian.
Yeah, I've got a 10.
I've
got
got
10.
12, but I believe that's still a 0 modifier.
It
It
is,
is.
yeah. So you're
So-
the most charismatic, but also just as not charismatic as the
Yeah.
others.
I'm the
Oh,
most
shit.
charismatic of this group of completely uncharismatic people.
I'm glad I dumped
okay.
that.
That's some stats. Excellent. So the next thing I think you guys need to do is obviously plug them into your character sheets and figure out what your great success and terrible failures are.
Would you like to explain that to me again? 'Cause
Yes,
I forgot.
please.
So a great success is half of your ability score, rounded down.
Okay.
So for ability checks, you basically need to, on a d20, get equal or less than your ability score. So a strength check for me would be 10 or less. If I roll 5 or less, it is a great success. A terrible failure, on the other hand, is 1.5 times your ability score, rounded down. So again, a 15 or more, for me, would be a terrible failure. So you work that out for all your stats.
Okay.
So this is
Okay.
where, again, the old school vibe of low fantasy gaming really comes into play. Because although for attacks, you'll still be trying to roll as high as possible and adding the static modifier that you apply based on whether it's an attack that is made with a spell. So you'll be adding your intelligence. I think that's how that works, John. Or you'll be adding your strength if you're doing a melee attack. Or you'll be doing your dex if you're doing a ranged attack. That works the way that it works in pretty much every role-playing game ever. You roll a d20, and the higher the number, the better, because you want to add on your modifiers and get a nice high number to beat the AC of the enemy you're trying to attack. However, for skill checks and saving throws, you essentially, when you create your stats, you're almost setting your own DC for how hard it is for you to achieve that particular thing. So, for instance, John with his 17 intelligence, for him to succeed at an intelligence saving throw, he has to roll under a 17, which is obviously really easy. However, similarly, for John to succeed a charisma saving throw, he has to roll under a 5, which obviously is unbelievably hard.
And a terrible failure on a 7 or more.
Exactly. So a terrible failure is where there is an additional adverse effect. It's like rolling a nat 1 on an attack in Pathfinder, for instance, where you have something that goes just terribly wrong for you.
Tight margin between like a fail and a terrible failure for a 7 to 5.
It's even worse on a 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is your intelligence actually 5?
It is actually 5. Welcome
Okay,
to.
I'd like
general.
to. Yeah, I'd like to say that my animal companion has an intelligence of 3.
Wow.
Hey, don't stand there and shame me, Rex.
I'm not shaming you. I'm just saying you're gonna have a really good friend in my animal companion.
Clearly sitting.
So,
See, we were worried about overlap, Bex, with us both having animal law and wilderness law, but they're both intelligence based. So I think you'll be doing most of that.
I am the smarter of the two of us.
Okay, ideal.
so similarly, great success is where you succeed to a really excessive amount. Something interesting about the great success is that in some situations, it might be that you have to have a specific proficiency and a skill to actually be able to have a great success be achievable. So I don't know whether this example will necessarily be true, but let's just go with that wilderness law you just mentioned. It might be the case that if it's been heavily raining or something, I might say that only people who are actually trained in wilderness law would be able to achieve a great success to find a camp that will be safe for the night, because obviously the conditions are so adverse. So it's just something interesting with the way that the proficiencies work in terms of making great successes and total failures more or less of a thing. Again, similarly with like a climbing ability, I might rule that because you have proficiency in climbing, it might mean that you won't necessarily be able to have a terrible failure at it, because you've been climbing a lot for your whole life. It's not very likely that you're actually going to fall from a terrible failure. It just means you don't make any actual progress.
Well, if you take my terrible failure on my intelligence, for example, it's 25.
Yeah, exactly.
So unless you apply some severe penalties to the roll, I'm never going to fail terribly on an intelligence check.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
I like that in terms of sort of reinforcing what a character is good at, and
yeah,
it's a
because
good
you know,
mechanic.
professional jugglers don't often drop what they're juggling.
No, and even if they
Untrue.
do cock it up, they kind of can style it out. So yeah, AC is the next thing, as you said, Bex. That sounds like a good place to go to. That one is based on Dex, I believe, and the type of armor you're wearing. So
No,
I think it's
I've gone for reinforced armor, which is medium, and that gives me a +3. So that's reinforced hide armor, so it's 10 plus your dex mod plus your armor.
And I think that's the case for all armor, to be honest. I think that it's
Yes.
always 10 plus dex mod plus whatever the armor does. So unlike 5th edition, there's no limitation to how much dex you add based on the type of armor you're wearing,
Yeah, that's right.
which is quite interesting, I think.
So I did look this up at the time, but do we know if leather armor classes as medium or light?
I believe that is light.
So is that a +2 or is that a +1?
That's +1,
Cool,
but
cool.
it doesn't give you any minuses to stealth.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
my armor gives me a -2 penalty to move silently and to swim.
okay, so
Sorry, what was the formula for AC again? Dex mod plus
10
10
plus.
plus armor.
plus
So yours, if you're wearing leather, would be +1. So yours would be
30.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but obviously, considering that at character creation, your maximum AC that you could have would be 18, and that's if you're wearing heavy armor, which gives you +5, which I don't
And you
think
have a dex of
anybody is
18.
actually. Yeah, if you had a dex of 18, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody has got heavy armor proficiency in this group. Because
no, I
you're all,
don't think so.
no, you're all kind
I
of
definitely haven't.
a little bit more like.
We're
like, obviously-
nasty. That's what it is.
Yeah.
There's no trained fighters here.
No. So I suppose, are you even wearing armor, John?
I am actually magic users get proficiency in light armors.
Oh yeah, actually, just looking at the armor, I see that one of the types of armor here that they list under light armor is heavy robes. Which
It's quite
actually,
light.
there is a logic. There is a kind of logic there behind really big, thick, heavy fabric being almost just as protective as a thin piece of leather.
So what about hit points then? I have rolled my hit points.
No, you get max first level.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That gives me a lot of hit points.
And what is max?
So maximum is it's a D something based on your class. So for the
Oh, yeah.
rogue, I think it is. Let me have a look.
D6.
So my magic user was 1d3 plus 3.
You gonna die.
I got
Plus
1d4
con.
plus 4 plus con. So I'm healthy 10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
range rogue is 1d4 plus 4
plus con.
Okay, so it's 8.
plus con. So it's
Plus
plus
con,
4
so-
plus con.
Cool. I had already done that then because I've already got written in 10 hit.
John, what did you end up with? I didn't hear.
7.
No, that's not too bad.
Aw.
Ah, you little fella.
Has everyone else got 10?
Yeah,
I got 14.
Oh, nice. I mean, you are the front line, I suppose, so that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Johns.
Nice.
Nice.
Um,
Double the trouble.
Nice.
What will be the next thing? Let's
Luck.
Luck.
yes,
So I
luck,
believe that's
yeah.
10 plus your level.
Yes, it is.
So that would give me 11, and everyone 11 for that.
Would you
one.
like to explain luck, Jack?
Yeah, so luck is essentially the 8th attribute you have. It is obviously kind of decides a lot of things that happen regarding like fate, good fortune. It's primarily used for saves and checks. So a luck save might be used for a spell effect that you trigger off, or a trap, or like a major environmental hazard like an earthquake or something. Essentially, the way that works is you make it in response to the attack, and then it will be in accordance. It will be a dex brackets luck check, for instance, or save.
Yeah, so like to begin with, your luck is 11. So if you were to make a luck dex save, your DC effectively, what you need, the value you need to clear would be for me, 13, 11 plus 2. But with luck, every time you use it, it goes down by 1. So when you make a save, it'll drop from 11 to 10. So even if you then need to make another deck save later on, instead of that value being 13, it'll be 12. So it's to kind of simulate your luck running out. That refills as you rest.
Something else you can do is a luck check, which is primarily used in combat. And it's used for things called major exploits and also party retreats, which essentially is... It's used because you have to be lucky to be able to do it. So a major exploit might be a rescue, for instance, where in the combat there's quite an interesting mechanic where you can, if you see somebody attacking, so let's just use a real-world example. If Mark, as the barbarian, sees someone about to attack John, the magic user, he can attempt to make a rescue, which essentially he can make a luck check, a dex check, I think, to intercept the person who's moving towards him to attack him and prevent that person from getting to him, even though it's not his turn.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Obviously, you won't be able to do that constantly because it'll use your luck up.
Now, luck seems to recharge very, very, very slowly as well.
Yes, it does.
It's not the sort of thing that just comes back. It's
yeah,
like,
you get 1 luck point per long rest.
and the long
just
rest is
for
like 3
3
days, isn't it?
it is. Well, it's
longer.
1d6 days, I think.
Yeah, that's a long ass rest.
It is.
A
So
long weekend.
essentially, it represents like you can travel. You haven't got to like literally sit around doing nothing. It represents like safe travel or resting in an inn. Actually, if you rest in an inn or somewhere that is definitely safe, it actually can be reduced by an amount because you haven't got to be alert at all. But it represents like, walking from one place to another could be considered to be a long rest. And if you have like an encounter where you have to do some fighting, what that does is it pushes out the long rest time that it will be completed by an extra day. So it sounds, for someone who plays like 5th edition where a long rest is just you go to sleep for the night, it's like kind of
Which,
like,
frankly, is some bullshit.
It's kind of crazy that you can have 1 hit point and go to bed and wake up in the morning and be magically healed. Whereas this, I think, it feels a lot more, for want of a better term, real.
As if the fantasy is slightly toned down, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe
lower, you could say.
Yeah.
It's a lower fantasy.
It's not quite so high.
Short fantasy.
Sure.
No dwarf jokes, please.
Yeah. I'm just about to make one. Never
I'm a
mind.
dwarf. I'm allowed to make them.
And there we have our first character voice.
That's Grandal Hammerlock.
So I think you guys have already done all your supplies and your gear ahead of time, which is good.
Yeah.
The next thing I think we need to figure out for you is you've all chosen your skills as well, haven't you?
Yes.
Yes.
So actually, just for my benefit, it might be interesting, and for the listeners as well, do you want to quickly give us a brief overview of the few skills that you've chosen off the bat?
Okay, I have gone for Arcane Law. Weird, wizard, I know. So Arcane Law, Animal Law, Divine Law, General Law, Insight, and Apothecary.
Awesome. So that's Apothecary is a particularly interesting one, actually. I just got to cut in here because that covers first aid and injury recovery, which is actually going to be a really big deal for this group because although in the low fantasy gaming rule set there is a class that does magical healing, and actually the wizards themselves can do magical healing as well because there's no per class spell list. It's just a full spell list. Yeah, it's just one spell list for all classes, which is actually really interesting because it means that in theory, if this next thing I'm about to tell you wasn't true, John would have been able to pick up healing spells that feel a little bit more clericy. But in the particular world of Talinost, there is actually no magical healing. The cleric-esque class, called the cultist, they don't exist. They used to, and that's something that kind of the lore of the world will kind of reveal to everybody as we go through. But they have gone missing, and the gods themselves have actually left. So there's actually no magical healing that is available to the party, or in fact anybody in the entire known world. That's going to be one of the things I really wanted to explore. Actually, was what would happen if you didn't have magical healing, and that's I think quite a useful skill that John's chosen. It's an int-based skill, and it just allows you to maybe have a better chance of survival, which I think is really good.
That's why I picked it.
So the ones I get from Ranger are animal law, wilderness law, and stealth.
Nice.
So the other ones I've taken from my list of potentials are acrobatics, because I like to do a flip. I was also going to apothecary, but I think I'm going to change that for insight, unless anyone has any kind of aversions to that.
No, you do you.
No.
Okay, that's fine. So I will change that to insight. And also, because I'm a ranger, do you want me to do my ranger skills as well?
Oh, do you have more?
I get more stuff because I'm obsessed.
Oh, cool.
I get ranger craft skills equal to my perception modifier, which is 2. So I get 2. So the ones I've gone for are sharpshooter, savage ball, which is before rolling the damage with a ranged attack, I can make a perception check, and if I'm successful, the attack causes critical damage, which sounds
Nice.
cool. Yeah.
Nice, yeah, that sounds good.
And the other one I took was cover fire, which is a bit of a support skill. So if a ranger or an ally is hit by a ranged attack, you may force the attacker to re-roll that attack and use the lowest results. You basically force disadvantage. Very nice.
Very nice.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm a party player, guys. Just thought I'd let you know.
Nice.
Awesome. Cool. Johnny, do you want to go through your skills?
Yeah, so I, straight off the bat, being all Dexy Thiefy style, proficient in acrobatics. I've just picked up athletics because previously I had gone for gather information, which is very thiefy, but it's based on my intelligence and or charisma, neither of which is particularly great. So
Makes
I've
sense.
got rid of that for the moment. So athletics, and then detection, general law, sleight of hand, stealth, and traps and locks, because I am the rogue of the party. So this is what I will be doing, hopefully.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And I also have a couple of skills from being a rogue. Tricks and techniques.
Which I'm just bringing up the details are. Cat's Grace. Subject to GM discretion, the rogue may turn a failed save or check relating to climbing, acrobatics, or falling into a success.
I can just go,
Awesome.
yeah, I did it. And the other one,
Failing.
The other one is Hidden Blade. The rogue may re-roll a failed melee attack. And that's all it says. There's no, like, once per...
short rest or anything like that. It just says I
Doesn't
can.
mind saying once per round.
It just says I may re-roll a failed melee attack.
Damn.
until you succeed.
Yeah.
Just keep re-rolling. Now, for my skills... sorry, are you done?
No, I am done. I am done.
I just wanted to ask Jack a question, because there are two skills that involve strength or con.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is athletics, which I've taken. So my question to you is, how much sailing are we going to do here? Because that's the other one.
It's a
You
very
would,
good question.
obviously, you living in the world, so I have actually provided these guys with a map of the world. And it's essentially a big landmass. There is an ocean around it, obviously. But to be completely honest with you, you are quite landlocked at your current location.
Okay. In that case, I won't choose sailing.
Your character.
I can't believe this has got so meta so early.
I know. So I've got animal law and wilderness law, which come pre-packed with the barbarian, but they are both intelligence-based, so go me. Athletics, I have chosen leadership, which involves intimidation and telling people what to do. Insight and detection are my skills. And hitting people with an axe, I get a +3.
I'd just like to clarify something for you, Johnny. You begin the adventure with one use of the ability per level.
Ah,
And you
cool.
regain the expended uses by taking a short or long rest.
Nice. Thank you for that.
So one to
Once
begin with.
I can just decide that I've hit when I've missed. It's pretty cool, though.
Yeah,
Oh no, it's
really
still
cool.
pretty good. Yeah.
Gone from
Yeah.
all the time to
Yeah,
maybe once.
I mean, otherwise,
It
you
would
just
be-
all be
If I could do
rogue.
it all the time, it would just be, whatever I feel like it. Oh, I missed. No, that's fine. I missed this time. This time, haha, stabbed you.
So what now? What we got left to talk about other than how deep we are in this fantasy?
I have one more question, Jack, if that's okay. Or
Yeah, go ahead.
John, sorry. So I obviously get an animal companion who I love dearly and would do anything for.
Yes.
But it says, in terms of how many hit points it has, it just says hit dice.
Hit dice are d8s.
Oh, the D8.
I said that without even moving my mouth.
That's amazing.
Well, I think she did say Jack or John, didn't she?
I Did they
By she.
No,
I
yeah,
mean, but
no, she heard of it. And to be honest, John,
Female.
you definitely know the rules better than me in terms of like the stuff to do with players. I've been really focusing on like the DM stuff for obvious
it's because
reasons.
what I did is take this shit seriously.
Oh, all right.
Jesus.
Take
All right, John. Settle down.
Sounds that really
I mean,
hurt.
I
See
mean-
how we
Take
all
that.
rush to defend ourselves.
Yeah.
But see, what I did was I
that was
created an
pointing-
entire fantasy world for you to
That was pointing
explore,
Jack.
and
That was not aimed at you guys. You have all created some very in-depth characters who I'm sure you're all very
Well-
attached to.
Mine is called Gary, so
I haven't given mine a surname, so
I don't have a surname either. I don't.
I think that we might be just about ready to actually do a fantasy.
Oh.
Well, how high is it?
Not very.
Not very. The not very. That's what we should have called the podcast. The not very high fantasy gaming.
Not very fantasy. Such fantasy.
So yeah, if you guys, if there's no more questions on rules or character creation, I think we should just dive straight in.
did we cover reroll?
No, we did not. Very good shout. Would you like to explain, John? As our,
So-
you know what, John? Just FYI,
resident
I
rule
am
lawyer.
going to assign you the podcast's rule lawyer.
So there is a another mechanic which we have at our disposal called reroll, which basically allows you to do just that. You can reroll any dice that you weren't happy with. The downside is we only get one use per adventure because we're first level. Aside from me being a human, I actually get a second one, so I get two. But
What?
yeah, but you get like
I don't get anything.
well, what does a half scorn get? It's got to be
No. Let me read it.
distance to physical abuse or something. Yeah, I don't know. You'll get something.
I'll look it up
But
in private.
basically, any roll, like you can re-roll, but you only get to do it once per adventure.
Mark, you get advantage on strength-related checks, excluding melee attack and damage rolls.
Okay, that's
So
reasonable.
all strength checks you have advantage on, and also to avoid disease.
No, what do I get? I don't get nothing.
But
Just very
you
strong boy.
also, Mark, have disadvantage on intelligence-related checks.
Oh,
Don't
you
need it.
fall under a 5, you've got to do it.
Don't need it.
He certainly does.
I'm just leaning into that. Don't worry about that. That's fine. Cool. Perfect.
Does everybody else have their race-specific things?
I have mine.
I have advantage as a dwarf. I have advantage when resisting poison and magic of all kinds.
Yep.
In addition, dwarves have a 50% chance of sniffing out a handful of gold coins or a single gemstone within 60 feet. This chance may increase for large quantities at the GM's discretion. All dwarves suffer from gold lust and take great pride in their honor and ancestry. The GM may require a will check to resist new opportunities for riches or to keep from retaliating against a perceived slight. I have better night vision than humans.
Like, not dark vision, per se. Still need light, but I can see better.
No, like the
Yeah. Low light, essentially, yeah. And I think elves have some stuff as well.
Yeah, so I also can see in very dim, twinkly light. And there's a nice little sentence in the guide that says, like, elves like light, like bioluminescence and low light in all their villages so they can always navigate. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
for
Like,
sure.
duh.
Just like elven streetlights. So I get advantage on dex checks and luck dex saves, which makes sense because I like to do a flip, as previously stated. And but I am not a strong girl, so I get disadvantage on con check and luck con save. But I also don't sleep. I just trance for 6 hours, and the first time I read that, I thought it was like trance dancing. You just sort of like
That's now canon.
in the club.
You have to rave it up. Just
Yeah,
throw shapes
maybe
for
we should
6
do
hours
that.
solid.
I just can't have my own little silent disco. That'd be awesome. So I maintain awareness, but I get -3 on perception.
All that doesn't make my one extra reroll sound very good.
I do. It also
That
says
reroll's
under
going to
mine-
save your life.
It also
I'll
said
leave it
under mine that the DM may require me to make a will check to assert dominance or show fearlessness in a challenging situation. And for the
Yeah.
listeners out there, if you don't know, which is not obvious because we've all read it, so we've all just assumed and not explain this, half scorn, which is my race, is basically but legally distinct from half orc.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's a good point, Mark. So before we jump into the fantasy, into the actual first section of the first session, just a quick aside. So by the time this podcast is released, I will have done my write-ups on World Anvil. So I'm going to be using World Anvil to track the podcast and the campaign that we're going to be running here. My intention is to essentially create a wiki that people can go in and read up on the specifics behind the races and the towns that the guys explore and the history of the world. It's essentially going to be my Bible, and it's going to be where the campaign story is going to kind of grow and evolve. And if you wanted to check that out, we'll be putting a link to where the World Anvil World of Talinost is in the description of the site that we're going to be loading this onto. So, without further ado, let's jump into the world of Talinost. Nothing adventured, nothing gained. This is your first session. This is going to be called... So the story I'm going to be telling is called The Final Rest Saga.
Nice.
You're going to be first entering the world in Chapter 1, which I'm going to... Essentially, there'll be arcs that you'll go through, and you'll kind of see how you progress, and the arc name will hopefully give you a bit of an idea of some of the themes that you're going to be exploring. And the chapter title for this one is Misremembered Dreams.
Ooh.
Very nice.
So, welcome to Session 0, a meeting in the Salt Cellar. Once, the world was full of magic. It was used freely and without consequence. The Magi, who ruled over what came to be known as the Time of Glory, were treated as living gods. By their side were the clerics, the messengers of the true gods, who, drawn in by the Magi's power and the promises of glory in this life rather than the next, pronounced them the chosen rulers of the land, and together they ruled unopposed. But soon the gods grew weary of the falsehoods being peddled by the clerics, and the worship that was theirs by right being given to the Magi. One by one the gods turned from the peoples of the world, and as they did, the magic began to work differently. Suddenly, without the gods there to keep order and hold back the monsters at the edges of creation, magic began to have a price. And so was born the Age of Pain. All across the land, accidents were had as magic took its toll on the world. But none was so great as the one that happened at the capital. Here, for the price of what would have been the greatest working of magic man had ever seen, a lake was turned to salt, and the life of every plant and tree was drained away. But that was 400 years ago. The world is a new one now. Magic is a feared and respected tool that few can wield and even fewer choose to. Neither the gods nor the clerics have returned. None pray to them. None remember their names. And most do not even believe they ever existed at all. Talinost, they say, is just now beginning to heal. The elder elves and the dwarven high chiefs, the one or two whose parents told them tales of the Time of Glory, say that the Age of Pain is coming to an end, and that a new era will be upon us soon. It is up to the people of the world to decide what kind of era that will be. So, the four of you are all in a small frontier village of Final Rest, and it is on a night just before the autumn equinox that you find yourselves sitting in the only tavern in town, the Salt Cellar. You're all here for your own reasons. Nyla is sat in the corner, a heavy hood pulled over her face, her cloak pulled around her, keeping her hidden. Grandel is sat talking in low tones to a young man about how easy it is to find the lady, and Elias and Gary sit together near the fire, discussing the strange circumstances of their meeting. The inn is quiet. It's harvest, and all the farmers are all in the fields gathering their crops. Most of the people in the inn are travellers, except the halfling barman, who sits cross-legged on the bar, whittling whilst he hums a happy tune. And there you are. You are, as I said, sat in the Salt Cellar, which is in the city, in the town of Final Rest. It's a small frontier town. They primarily are salt miners. They mine salt from the salt pit, which is just to the west of the town, through the Mage's Folly Wood. Essentially, the way that the salt miners work is they go there for a few weeks at a time, mine as much salt as they can from the now completely salt lake, and bring it back across the through the woods into town, where it is then picked up by various traders who go up to the city in the north, the new human kind of central hub of the world, or down to the elves to the south, and the dwarves to the east.
Can I ask a question?
You can.
Do I have my animal companion?
So I think that you probably would have left him kind of outside of town, because I don't think many of the townsfolk would be very happy about a tiger wandering about.
Yeah. I guess that. You might just think it's a rug or something. But
Yeah, I think
checking.
in your journey from the Elven Forest up to Final Rest on the way to the city, you will have kind of realised the reservations that humans have for like the big cats and stuff. They're not very common outside of the Elven Forest, so they kind of it freaks them out. So you kind of normally have gotten to the habit of leaving him outside of towns or villages when you do venture within, if you're desperate for supplies.
I did guess that, but I just wanted to make sure.
No,
that I
that's
wasn't,
fair
like,
enough.
sitting alone, except for this giant tiger. You know, so I think, as you rightly say, Nyla is sitting in the corner trying to stay out of the way and observing everyone. She's particularly watching the half-spawn, just like trying to take in what he's doing. Like, she would have heard stories from her family about half-spawn, but probably never seen one. So she's just trying to like watch what he does and what he's about.
He seems to just be, just normal, pretty comfortable in the bar. He's actually from this town, you see. So, I mean, people around here, they're aware of him. He's not a new sight.
Yeah. I think that's another quite interesting thing, actually. So, obviously, as you've said, Mark, Gary is from Final Rest. None of the other characters are. So,
Let's
Elias...
roleplay this shit.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Let's fucking roleplay.
Just in terms of like some background there, I think Grandel might have seen Gary about, because I think you've been in town for a few weeks now.
Yeah, we would have been, because I was injured.
Yeah.
From which I have now recovered, so I would have been here for a week. So if anyone else,
Essentially, you've had a long rest.
I have had a long rest. I quickly squeezed out a long rest in the last 6 days.
Tucked in a long rest real quick.
Yeah.
Grandel has only been in town a couple of days, I'd say, and he has been rushing up from the east past Blind Eye Peak along the river. So he has not had a long rest. Quite the opposite, in fact. He's enjoying being in this.
The opposite. He's dead.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, he's enjoying being in this pub in order to sort of relax. And at this point, you hear him say to this random pub goer, making love to a beautiful woman and picking a complicated lock are very similar in that I am good at both of those things. And he takes a big swig of his ale and sort of sits back in his chair looking very, very pleased with himself.
This boy is just like, I think he's probably the son of a merchant that's travelling through, and he's just looking at you like...
He's 7.
Doesn't know what to do with this information.
What?
Elias, there's a girl watching me from across the bar. Do you think she wants a bit? Hey, have a look. Don't look. Just be cool. Just be cool. You see her?
I'm not entirely sure who you're referring to, Gary.
She's got. Just be cool. Just have a look. Just like real quick. I'll
Jack,
just look.
apart from the four of us and this poor child, who else is in here?
So there's a smattering of other like travellers. So you've got mainly humans, to be honest. In fact, all humans, to be honest. You don't have any other races. You're the only members of your relative races. The rest of them are kind of little groups of either mercenaries or traders who are all passing through. Most of them are heading north to the city, to be honest, from the looks of them.
I was mostly just checking that Elias wasn't looking across and going, I'm not sure who you mean, and it was literally just her sat there.
No. There's a variety of women all over the town, all over the tavern.
Every shape and size.
Nice.
So Gary,
I like this
would you like me to have a word with this young lady?
No, that's all right. I like to think myself as pretty charismatic. I think I can have a word. And I walk over to Nyla. All right, sweetheart. I couldn't see. I couldn't help but notice you looking across the bar there. What's your name then?
So I would imagine that I'm kind of like frozen in fear. Like thing coming towards me that I do not know what. Well, I kind of know what it is, but not really. So, Nyla? Hi.
Well, that's a very pretty name, though, isn't it? Nyla. I like that. I like that.
Thank you.
Tell me, what's a pretty little girl like you doing a bar like this?
Well,
I look over to Elias and like give double thumbs up.
Elliot, you think that I look terrified?
I'm just shaking my head. I've got a charisma of 5, and I know
I
it's
know.
a bad move.
And you wanted to have a word for me?
I was going to apply the parting of coin technique.
What? Pay? What?
That's fun.
She just pay her to have sex with me.
No, I was asking her if she was interested.
Wow.
Wow, wow, we're really getting into
my charisma
into
of 5.
character. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna like look around for kind of help, I guess. Just sort of like, what is this guy looking for? And
Grand-
I will just like sort of scoot back a little on my chair, and I just say, do you have a name?
Yeah, my name's my full name's Gary Nash, but everyone calls me Gary. Yeah, everyone calls me Gary, but you know, don't worry about my name. My name, you know, it's irrelevant, really. I mean, I'm kind of a big deal around here. You know, I'm
Right.
yeah. I don't like to brag, but I'm the strongest man in the town, and you know, I lift anything. I lift that chair right there, and I lift that chair right above my head. Are you impressed? Roll to see if you're impressed.
What check would that be, Jack?
You don't need to roll.
Insight?
You're not
Hey,
impressed.
don't-
I mean,
I'm pretty impressed.
It's just a chair.
So Grandal sees this happening from across the bar, and because he thinks he's a bit of a ladies' man himself, he sort of saunters up and like positions himself between the two of you, and just
Wow.
as if you know him and he's meant to be there. He goes, I'm sorry I was away for so long, my dear. I didn't mean to leave you sitting here alone for so long. Like very pointedly, like trying to be like, yeah, I'm here, so go away. But bearing in mind that I'm like 4 feet tall.
I'm probably like just so confused as to what the hell is going on right now. I've been accosted by a half-scorn, and now a dwarf is sidling up to me, and I have no idea what's happening. So I'm just gonna like pick up my drink, and I'm gonna like just move to a different table.
Oh, I think you didn't luck out there, little man. I think you cramping my style.
At this point, the door to the inn bursts open, and a young man walks in. Well, I say walks. He rushes in and says, he like kind of looks around the tavern in a very, agitated manner. And as soon as he sees Gary, he shouts, "Gary, quick! It's Daniel. He's trapped under a wagon. The salties are back, and one of the carts has hit a ruck. The wheel gave up. He's trapped, and no one can lift the wagon. They started to haul the salt off, but you're strong as hell, and it'll make it a mite quicker if you're helping." And he kind of turns back and kind of says, "Follow me," and runs back in the opposite direction out of the pub.
I could turn to Nyla as I walk out of the pub. Like, it's hard life being the strongest man in the town. But I'll see you later. I'll see you real soon. And I go out and help.
I finish Gary and mine's drink.
I stealthily follow the two of them out, just leaving enough of a gap that hopefully they won't notice me.
You can kind of hear commotion coming from outside. Outside, obviously, you'll all know this because you're inside the tavern. But outside the tavern, just outside, it is kind of like the crossroads at the centre of town. The salt cellar is actually the biggest building in town because it's obviously an inn, and being a trading town, it's kind of the most important place other than the the salt stores.
So we get out there. I mean, kind of saunter out. I'm kind of like strutting as I leave the bar. The second I get out of her eyesight, I'm kind of running.
So it's like really obvious what's happened. As I said, it's just as that boy. So the boy is Daniel. It's the son of one of the salties, as they are referred to by the townsmen. He's trapped under this wagon. He's obviously run up to greet his father, and as that's happened, the wheel looks like it's, as he said, has hit a ruck, and the cart has just collapsed on top of him, and he's trapped under this cart. And it's quite a large wagon, and it's literally piled high with salt, like in big blocks.
Oh, bloody hell, Daniel, you got yourself into a rock, haven't you? Look at you. Look at you at that soul cut. I attempt to lift it.
Cool, give me a strength check.
I'm gonna. I get advantage.
With
The
advantage.
first roll. I get the advantage on this because I'm a strong boy.
And you're half scorn, yeah.
For those
Yeah,
who
I'm
don't
sorry.
know what advantage is, he rolls 2d20 and takes the best result.
Well, my lowest was 9, and my strength is 17, so that is under that score. So that is a success.
Cool. So yeah, you managed to kind of, everyone stood around. It's like, this is heavy, and you kind of like put your hands underneath it and you kind of brace, and you start like really kind of straining, like your veins and your muscles are properly like you're really working hard for this, and eventually after a couple of seconds you kind of manage to lift it up, and some of the other salties kind of who are stood around kind of quickly but gently kind of pull Daniel out from underneath it, and his legs are a mess. Like, they are all kind of broken up. And as soon as they move him, he kind of cries out in pain. He is in a bad way. And I think after... Yes.
So I was going to ask, is there anyone... So there's these salties standing around, the miners, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. Are there any, like, wealthier-looking people or merchants maybe passing through? Who have been
There is, like...
distracted
There
by
are
this spectacle?
traders everywhere. This town is it's a busy town. It's small, but there's a lot of foot traffic, and there's always... people about.
Okay.
It's early evening, so everyone's kind of coming in and out of the tavern, like looking to get bed down, but this has kind of caused a commotion. There's like a ring of people around it.
Cool. So, any of these sort of richer-looking people who are stood around gawping, while they're distracted, I'd like to try and pick their pockets.
Sounds good, yeah.
Standard rogue.
That's how I do.
Give me a percentile dice.
So that is 83.
Cool. So yeah, just pick a noble at random. That was
Is there one
essentially,
that-
so that was to see whether or not you could sniff out some gold in a large quantity.
Ah, cool. Okay. Yeah, if there's one who's like wearing purple, that's always a good rich.
Yep.
expensive
Yeah, there's a kind
colour.
of chubbier than everybody else, but not fat. There's a guy kind of wearing like a purple doublet.
Nice. Okay, yeah. So, assuming that it's going to be a sleight of hand check to try and rob this man.
It will be, yeah.
So I'm proficient at sleight of hand. What do I have to get under for this roll?
I get under
So
a
it's-
16.
So it's still a dex check. Proficiency essentially means that you're able to try it, and if you fail, that's one of the things that precludes whether or not you're allowed to make a
Terribly
reroll or
failed.
not.
Yeah.
So you can
Okay.
only use your reroll on things you're proficient in.
Gotcha. Okay, well, here we go. That is a 10, so I am definitely under.
Nice. So yeah. So what will happen is you'll cut the purse away from his belt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of got a little bit of weight to it, and I suppose you slip it into your pocket to count later.
Awesome. Thank you.
Whilst that's been happening, obviously there's been a rather large crash because Gary has kind of dropped the salt cart because he couldn't stand there holding it for any longer. That is an
Hey, you don't know
absolutely
me.
monstrous weight there.
I run back into the bar. Elias, you only good at like medicine.
I am a proficient healer, Gary.
Yeah, there's like a little boy outside. He's got like these mangled legs, two of them. Two mangled legs. Can you come and see what you can do? I know you're quite intelligent, man.
I would tend to the young boy, Gary, if you could see it within yourself to finally clear me of the debt that I owe you.
What? Like,
You know,
like
the whole
like
life
the
thing.
round that I just bought you, me.
No, for saving my life.
Oh, okay. Sure. I mean,
Just-
if you
just
could
say
like,
yes,
mend
Gary.
his broke. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I agree.
Can I hear all this?
I don't think they're being quiet about it, so yeah.
No.
Okay, I go and tend to the young boy.
Cool, so give me an apothecary check.
I rolled a 4. So I think
Nice.
His bones just snap back into place. It's like Deadpool.
So
that's a great
essentially,
success.
that's a great success. So yeah, you managed to. One of the legs is broken in one place, and you think that you can probably splint that, and it might heal to be kind of a straighter leg again that he might be able to walk on. The other one is essentially not savable, but you have managed to stop the bleeding from around his waist, and you think he's going to probably pull through, but he might be crippled for life. In fact, no, you don't even think he might be. You know for a fact that he will be crippled for life.
I have done all I can, Gary.
That'll take
well-
that'll take you a good 10, 15 minutes of kind of, looking at him. You'll be calling for people to get you like bits of wood and kind of bits of fabric and stuff for you to make a splint out of, that sort of thing.
Randall-
My recommendation is that the other leg is amputated.
Oh well, that's something that I might be able to help with.
I mean, there's no huge run.
I mean, let's not, let's just get it done, Rip the bandage off. I look at his dad.
Rip the leg
Sure.
off.
And I walk away. If
Um,
he's gonna
the,
cut
um,
anyone's leg off.
The dad looks at you, kind of horrified by that, and he says, "But what about Jacob?"
What about Jacob?
So Jacob is. So you won't know this, Gary, but actually, Elias, at the name Jacob, your kind of head will turn because you will recognise the name. Jacob is a boy who lives in one of the very small kind of hamlet-type villages where the farmers generally stay, a couple of days' walk from here. And he is actually the boy that you are here to see. Daniel's father, he will kind of say, "But what about Jacob? They say he can heal him."
Excuse me? Jacob?
Yes, Jacob, the boy from the villages. They say that he has healed people.
Well,
I
that's
see.
impossible.
I'd be very interested to meet this Jacob.
I think his mother said she was bringing him into town to meet some wizard.
I click my fingers. Gary, retrieve the boy.
I mean, I'm not employed by you.
I click even harder.
All right, fine, and I do it. Pick him up.
Wait, the Daniel.
Yeah.
Right.
The young boy. I'll pick him right up. It's easy. I roll strength check. Advantage. Great success.
The fact that you got a great success, I think, means that when you pick him up, he doesn't kind of cry out in pain because you've actually done it gently.
No, I do. I do. Okay.
Throws him over his shoulder like a sack.
Yeah.
Easy.
So Grandal has been stood watching all of this,
Yeah.
the healing process, and then he's just been disappearing every now and then to go and get another pint from the
Nice.
bar.
Yep.
So he's about 5 pints deep by the end of this. And he's very disappointed that the leg didn't get chopped off. So now he's following them with a pint in hand to see what's going to happen next.
Cool.
Yeah, I can imagine him standing in a doorway, sort of like when I heard screams and crashes, just like keeping an eye on what the hell was going on.
Where is this? Where is? Excuse me, sir. Where is this boy?
His father is another one of the Salties. I believe they were due to be in town to meet the father and also to meet a member of the magic users guild that had been sent to test him.
What you mean, like
Jack, is that
maths?
me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I thought so, but I didn't want to
backstory.
just assume.
No, that is you. That is you,
must,
Elias.
you must take him to me immediately. No, the other way around. You must take me to him immediately.
Confession.
Whichever's quickest.
I think if you just kind of, I mean, they're due to be meet. I mean, don't you know when they're supposed to be meeting you? And at this point, Elias, you remember that the letter does say that they're going to meet you in the tavern in approximately today.
But I wasn't gonna. I didn't tell him that it was me that they meet.
Oh, of course you didn't. But he might just be like, well, I think they're supposed to be in town soon, so I don't know where they're going to go.
Okay.
But they're not here. Well, unless they are. Susan? Okay. You don't hear anything. There's no response. No, she's not here yet.
Okay. Gary, bring the boy into the bar.
I told you before. I'm you're not paying me just. I'm not employed by you.
Gary, there is beer in the bar. You may have one.
You also see me standing in the doorway.
Alright, in that case, I strut across with a broken boy. Alright, you seeing this boy's leg? It's pretty nice.
Run inside and hide in a corner.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say that. I caused it. It's not what I intended. Well, whatever.
Wow.
I'll take it my time.
That aimed at me. Who was that aimed at?
So I think you're probably all going to go into the bar and have a few more drinks
Yeah.
whilst you wait.
I go back into the bar. This is
Yeah,
where
yeah.
I'm supposed to be meeting.
So it kind of gets a bit darker. The sun begins to set, and you kind of notice that some of the farmers have started to come in for a drink after they've kind of finished for the day. One of them, a woman, as she comes in the door, she kind of looks around as if she's looking for somebody, and upon seeing Elias, she does kind of like an awkward wave and kind of walks over to you. She's in her early 30s, I think. You think, sorry. She's got a kind of strong frame and leathery skin of a farmer, someone who spends there all the time outside. She kind of just sits at your table and like does a really big kind of weary sigh. Ugh. Sorry about not coming to find you earlier, but the rains are coming and we need to get the crops in. My daughter's bringing the boy. She's on her way now. Thank you for coming all this way. I was worried my letter would not get to Tackett's, but we haven't seen an order monk come through in years, so I thought it was best to reach out directly. So the order, are an order, funnily enough, of monks who essentially, when the folly, which is the kind of name for the cataclysmic destruction of the Citadel City and the lake, happened, they took it upon themselves to kind of hunt down and kind of stop mages from practicing magic in a kind of reckless way. But over the last 400 years, they've kind of evolved into this protective order that kind of help mages keep themselves in check. So one of the things that all mages kind of have as one of their rules now is that you can never have more than 3 mages together, like working together at once, because it just increases the likelihood of a catastrophe exponentially. And so the order monks essentially act as messengers and emissaries for the various members of the Magic Users Guild, helping the newly come into power find teachers and masters to train them how to kind of wield their power without causing too much destruction.
And Elias is one of these masters.
No, so Elias is actually, well, you don't actually necessarily know this as a character, but Elias is...
As a character, yeah.
Yeah. But Elias has been sent by his master to test this boy.
I see, okay.
In terms of like the kind of wider story, that's what she's referring to here.
Gotcha.
So over to you, John, if you want to kind of talk to this lady.
And how long will it be until this young man is here?
I don't think it should be too long. I told them to set off a few days ago. We've been harvesting the crops, working our way towards town. They should be here, any minute.
I should hope so. I've been here for many days as it is. What is your name, my lady?
Susan.
It is a pleasure. Would you like a drink?
Yes, actually, that'd be very lovely.
Gary, buy the young lady a drink, please.
I told you before, I'm not. Like, I turn to look at the lady. I'm not his employee. Like, he keeps. Like,
Yes, Gary, I know you've lived in this town your entire life.
I know, right? And he's just turned up.
Deep cut.
Yeah, fine.
I put a gold on the table and buy yourself one at the same time.
Jesus. Yeah, fine. What would you like, my lady?
Rum?
At the mention of rum, Grandel suddenly appears in frame next to this woman and just goes, "And who's this tall drink of water?"
She just looks at you with the most, like, completely flat expression.
Hi.
Yes. Hello, small
How's it going?
man.
I'm a dwarf, madam.
Is this one with you, Master? Sorry, I don't know what your name is.
My name is Elias.
Master Elias. Is this another one of your underlings?
I have never seen this before.
Range.
Interesting. Well, thank you, but no.
He tips a hat that he's not wearing and turns and calmly walks away.
So, what sort of signs has this young boy shown to be?
I don't really rightly know. He's not my son, he's my sister's. She died in childbirth, and I took the boy in for all my sins. He's an odd one. He doesn't like to be around people. He sits by himself under the tree in our garden, just muttering away at himself. It's very disconcerting. I'm very concerned about him.
What is this I hear about him being able to heal?
Oh, that. A few months ago, there was an incident where one of his young, I'd say friends, but he doesn't have any friends, another one of the children from our small village, fell out of the tree he was sat underneath. Now, the other children are absolutely adamant that this boy had a broken arm. But, It's just not possible. The boy's arm is completely fine, not a single bruise on it at all, and the other children all say that Jacob was the one that did it, and for some absolutely ridiculous reason, all of the other farmers believed them.
I mean, you are correct to be skeptical. It's utter nonsense.
I'm
This
not
sort of magic
from
just
here.
does not exist.
I was once of the city, and married a farmer for my idiocies. It's what love does to you. Don't buy into it. And yes, so I actually lived near Master Tackett's tower, and which is why I thought of him when I had this ridiculousness about Jacob, and I thought maybe he would be able to set the matter straight.
Hence why I'm here, my lady. I am to discern the talents of this young boy.
Excellent.
I come back from the bar, and they didn't have any gum, but I got you I got you stink bone ale instead. It's quite nice. It's very hoppy. Got a lot of tannins. Yeah, you should try it. It's real robust flavour.
She just downs half the pint.
Yeah, well, that's the spirit, isn't it? Hey, it's only what is it? Midday?
It's like sunset, Gary.
Sunset. Yeah, whatever. I've been drinking for hours.
Randall reappears and hands Susan a rum. He goes, your order, milady.
She'll shot it as a chaser.
Nice.
This was. Where did you get that?
From the bar.
What is it with gum? I asked them. What?
It's rum, laddie.
What?
That,
Okay.
Gary, really is the spirit.
I don't get it. But I like it.
So at this
Everyone
point,
else is laughing.
the door opens and a young boy of 12 is led in by a slightly older girl leading him by the hand. Susan kind of looks round and is like, oh, at last, and kind of waves them over. This girl is
Yes,
kind of like,
last.
she's like, looks like Susan has desperately tried to make her ugly daughter pretty with just like bunches and pigtails and ribbons and stuff, and it's just not worked. But Jacob is wearing like the most basic shoddy hempen jerkin, that sort of thing. You know, he looks like an orphan boy essentially. He's quite a shy boy, and he kind of at the number of people there are in the bar, kind of he immediately shies away and tries to leave again, but the girl kind of just yanks him in and kind of pushes him in the direction of you.
Finally, the small talk is over. Boy, come to me.
He kind of looks at you, and as your eyes meet, you both kind of feel this, well, you feel this kind of tingle, this kind of reverberation behind the eyes, which is something you know you get from another magic user.
I think you'll find that's my sensing magic ability.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He kind of, you can see that this is the first time he's felt that too, and he kind of walks towards you, intrigued by this.
Jacob, I assume.
Yes.
Follow me, boy.
Okay.
And I grab him by the arm and lead him off to my room. I'll click my fingers and say, Gary, bring the young lad.
Yeah, for fuck's sake. Oh, fine. And I'll follow him.
Cool. Yeah, you kind of manage to do that unaccosted. Susan's not bothered. She kind of settles down to have another drink. One thing that is kind of the Daniel's father is a bit like, and then you kind of, I assume you kind of give him a look, and he just shuts up.
I mean, he can follow if he wants. I mean, I don't. I mean, I will turn to Jacob and say, I see you're uncomfortable. I'd like you to show me your gifts in the privacy of my room, where you would probably feel more comfortable.
He just nods at you, and it's just like,
I'm dragging him by the arm.
He's kind of like doesn't look. It's funny because he's kind of like he's obviously scared, but as soon as you start talking about his gifts and stuff, he kind of becomes slightly more relaxed. He does look like he kind of is intrigued by what you're talking about.
I mean, I'll lead them to the room. Closing the door or anything because I'm not doing it for my privacy. I'll get Gary to place Daniel on the bed with a click of the fingers.
Yeah, so
I do that totally.
Jacob kind of looks horrified at the boy's legs. He's just like, oh my god, it's bloody awful because it is gross.
Jacob,
It's pretty gnarly,
prove
right?
me wrong. Work your magic.
Oh,
Fix this boy's leg.
I can't always do it on command. I have to be told to by him.
And who is this him?
The man in my dreams.
Sure.
Grandal is lurking in the background at the moment in case any more weird leg stuff happens.
Yep, he's a
Tell
bit
me,
of a sadist.
Tell me more of this man in your dreams.
I don't remember the dreams completely. I just know that he tells me things that I can't quite remember in words I don't quite understand, but I just know that I have to do something.
Interesting.
I have to be somewhere and do something, but I don't know what or why. And that boy, I didn't mean to do anything to his arm. He was crying. He looked like he was in so much pain, and I kind of touched his arm and kind of just tried to soothe him, and then he wasn't crying anymore.
Did this man in your dreams speak to you when you healed this boy?
Yes, I heard him, and he said something, and I don't know what the words he used were, but it meant yes. He said yes when I did it.
Would you be able to speak these words?
I can try. And he kind of...
I cast Speaker of All Tongues, which allows me to speak, read, and understand all language.
Do me a Dark and Dangerous Magic check.
Oh, do you want to explain that mechanic real quick?
I shall. So, essentially, one of the big downsides to magic in the low fantasy gaming world is that there is a mechanic called Dark and Dangerous Magic. So every time a magic user of any kind attempts to cast a spell, there is a chance that there will be some negative effect that will happen along with it. It's quite a long list. It's literally a percentile table of negative effects, and they're rolled randomly if you do suffer this effect. But essentially the way it works is you have a threshold. So the threshold for the first time you cast a magic spell, in this case just like now, you have to roll a 1 on a d20 for the Dark and Dangerous Magic to take effect. So John, if you want to roll that now...
I rolled a 19.
Lovely. So John's rolled a 19, which means the Dark and Dangerous Magic effect does not happen this time. However, it's now slightly more likely that it will happen next time. Next time he does a spell, there will be a chance that he will cause a Dark and Dangerous Magic on the roll of a 1 or a 2. So essentially, it is guaranteed that 1 in every 20 spells, or minimum, will cause a Dark and Dangerous effect. So essentially, if John was extremely lucky and got to the point where his threshold was 20, obviously on that roll he is guaranteed to cause a Dark and Dangerous Magic effect. Once you've had a Dark and Dangerous Magic effect, no matter what your dice roll or threshold was, that then resets back to 1.
Do you want to give us an example of one of the things? Some of the
Yeah, so they vary wildly, to be honest. Some of them are as simple as John might lose the ability to breathe for a couple of months. There's no adverse effect to him at all. He does not require breath any longer. So
that from a roleplay perspective, obviously, if I go unconscious during combat,
you can't tell if he's dead or not.
Yeah. So
there's a similar one where his heart stops beating even though he's alive. So, but then there's also effects like his arm could just turn into a crab claw.
Nice.
Like it's things like that. It's kind of it is, to be honest, quite Cthulhu-esque in that it's the dark entities from beyond creation that I mentioned in the kind of beginning affecting the way magic works.
Yeah,
essentially what I'm hearing is no downsides.
Yeah,
just use it willy-nilly.
But there are positives, like some of the.
Oh yeah, sometimes there's
I get to go first in the next initiative.
Or like one of them might be you do max damage on your next spell.
Or you get a kick-ass crab claw.
Or that.
That is pretty badass.
And I think those and all the effects last for different amounts of times, and essentially so I think on a 99 or 100, what will then happen is John will have to roll again on a smaller table, and he will have a permanent effect. So something like the hollow eyes, where his eyes become completely black, and kind of just there's nothing in them. That will be permanent and completely irreversible by any magic.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so there's kind of like, but like the thing is with that is obviously is that he is then immediately noticeable as a magic user.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Um,
no eyes magic users.
Yeah, well, essentially, if you see somebody who is just really still, you know they're probably a magic user because they're not breathing.
So what does this young boy say, Jack?
So he says a word, and he's completely right. It's in a language you have never heard before, and to you, Gary, and to you, Grandel, it sounds horrific. Like it is like unintelligible hellscape noise, essentially.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was like.
Yeah, but for you, John, Elias, you hear him say yes, and it's so you know how some languages have like different ways of saying words for different so like you might have a yes that means I accept, or you might have a yes that means I agree, that sort of thing. This, it sounds like an achievement. Like, this is absolutely in line with... It's the completion of a goal is what is kind of intended. It is implicit in the way this word, in what this yes means.
Okay.
Is what you get from that.
Is there anything else you could say to me that the man in the dreams has spoken to you?
I can try. I'm going to do... let me just check something. I need to do a... So he's going to make a check.
Cool.
He tries, but he kind of just makes like noises which don't mean anything as far as your spell allows.
I roll my eyes. Disapprove.
Oh,
Jacob, why don't you try and soothe this young man? Why don't you have a conversation with him? See if assess how he is.
Yes, I suppose there's no harm in speaking to him. He kind of goes over and he's like, kind of says a few words, and I'm not going to do the whole role playing with myself thing.
You're not going to talk to yourself for the next 5 minutes.
No, that would be boring. So he kind of just goes over and is kind of like chatting to him about various things. You know, how are you? How did this happen? Is he all right? He's not, as it turns out.
what a twist!
What was the giveaway?
Young boy, why don't you explain to Jacob here how much pain you're in? And I kind of very, very gently just grab his leg a little bit and give it a bit of a squeeze.
Oh, he like cries out in pain, and Jacob looks absolutely horrified.
Could I do it slyfully?
How do you mean slyfully?
Like, I didn't want to make it obvious to Jacob.
Give me sleight of hand then.
That is something I'm not proficient in.
Just do me a dex check then.
No.
Then no, he is. You think you kind of go in to kind of do it like subtly, but just like make eye contact by accident as you're doing it, and it's just like
get, a depth perception
You look him right in the eye as you squeeze his poor child's broken leg.
Are you
So- Grandal sees this clearly, this terrible attempt at sleight of hand, yes?
I mean, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you'll see him just
It
hit
wasn't
this
a terrible
boy's leg.
failure.
I don't think you
Okay.
would necessarily
Well-
realize that he was trying to be
I
subtle
was
about
going
it.
to say, can I make a detection check to see if I notice his bad sleight of hand attempt?
I think you kind of just see that what he's done because he didn't. It wasn't like I don't think it was. Yeah, actually, no, give me detection to see whether you kind of realize he was trying to do that on the sly.
That is a 1.
Nice.
Nice.
So yeah, you are just like he was trying to be subtle about that, and that was appalling.
Yeah, so Grandal just, like, under his breath, but not really. Like, he's had 6 pints by now. He's a dwarf. Under his breath can be heard 3 rooms away. He just goes, shite.
Nice. Kind of as you say that, Jacob is like he kind of pushes Elias back. Elias, you kind of feel a little like crack of like kind of like kind of that like electrical like tang, like just crack through the air ever so slightly as you kind of like he's giving you like an like a static shock as he kind of pushes you away in absolute horror, and he kind of puts his hand on Daniel's foot because that's kind of where he is in relation to you, I think, in my head. And you see, for like the briefest of moments, there is like a small flash of light, like almost. If I give you detection.
Oh, well, I rolled a 4. I'm not sure what skill it is, but as long as it's not charisma, that's fine.
It's not. I think it's perception.
Perception. Great success.
Excellent. So yeah, you actually can see this light leave Jacob's fingertips, and it basically follows, as you obviously know anatomy. It follows the bones and like literally shoots up his leg along the bones. And you can kind of see that it almost looks like it's radiating out from within in like kind of trace amount and like kind of like a like a spider web kind of pattern. He looks a little bit better. Like his leg looks like it's kind of slightly more in place.
Does it make a noise at all when this happens?
Kind of subtle cracking, I think, is the kind of noise. This kid he looks like he's repaired this broken leg.
What, the knackered one?
Yeah, the one that was completely and irrecoverably buggered.
Bloody hell, did you say that?
As you say that, Gary, you hear a noise. All of you hear a noise. Everybody in the town hears a noise. And Jacob begins to scream. And it is not the sound of a boy screaming. It is the sound of that language that you heard before. How long does that spell last for, John?
1d6 times 10 minutes or something.
Oh, cool. It's definitely still help. So he is still shouting yes. Like he's just, yes! Yes! That's kind of what is happening. And
all right, little man, I thought you just need to settle down.
Everybody needs to make Lux dex checks.
What?
Advantage. Woo!
A dex check or a luck dex check?
Luck dex check.
Oh, shit.
No, luck.
Yeah.
Plus your dex modifier.
Last dex. So 13 or lower. I need to get.
Mm-hmm.
I did it.
I rolled a 17, so no.
I also got a no.
So under your luck plus your dex modifier, yeah?
So yeah, so
luck
it'll be
plus your dex.
Yeah.
17. I do not believe it's under that.
I don't think it will be.
No.
No.
The people at the epicenter.
Yeah. So the ground starts to shake. Like there is an earthquake of absolutely monumental proportions, and the tavern begins to kind of tear itself apart. The boy, Jacob, the world opens up beneath him, and he is gone.
Since I made my dex check, can I have been like running up towards the noise as this was happening?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I think you're kind of on the stairs. And it's because you're on the stairs, kind of like the building kind of starts coming down. But obviously the stairs are the way, because of the shape of them, they kind of more structurally sound in a lot of cases. So you're kind of manage to brace yourself, and as the building kind of comes down, the three of you are kind of buried a little bit under the rubble. Under the rubble.
Just a small cave-in.
Give me a percentage.
You are completely buried, but in a pocket of air. Like you've all been like thrown to your feet, and you kind of not been able to kind of make it to the window, because obviously you kind of once you realised what was going on, it was kind of the luck check was to see whether or not you managed to go, shit, I need to get out of here, and kind of jump out the window. Whereas where Nyla managed to do it, she kind of was like, shit, this is probably a better good place to stay, and she kind of managed to dodge the bits of falling roof and stuff. But as you kind of as the dust clears, as they say, Bex, you're kind of like stood on the stairs, like that's kind of lying on the side of this like big pile of what used to be an inn. Across from you, you see the barman, the halfling barman, who's just kind of like, he's kind of almost comically stood like in a window, kind of Buster Keaton style. You can imagine that must have been what happened for him to be stood like that. The rest of you, you're kind of all pinned together under the same bit of rubble. Mark, give me a strength check to see whether you can kind of lift the rubble off from above you.
Damn. All right, let's get going. That is a great success. I rolled a 7, and my great success had to be 8 or lower.
Nice. So yeah, you just like burst out from the rubble, and you've kind of come out from underneath it
in the room.
You kind of you manage to get out of the rubble, and you kind of clear so much of it that it kind of allows Grandel and Elias to both kind of see the light, as it were, and kind of climb out of the rubble as well. Because you just made
grab Grandel by the back of his collar and just lift him up with one hand on top of the. There you go, little man.
Let me go. Don't be picking me up, you beardless fish-catching pixie.
Well, there's no need to be rude, mate.
Put me down.
It's just fine, and I drop him the height.
I'll start digging out the knives if I can get to him.
I appreciate your assistance.
Yeah, so between Gary and Nyla, you all managed to kind of get out from the rubble. The halfling looks really shaken, and there's other kind of people who are like kind of crawling out from underneath the rubble. And as you kind of look around, you realise that every single building in town has fallen.
Oh,
like
hell.
this has razed the entire town.
Oh no!
What happened?
I'll be a halfling's armpit.
Hey, Elias.
Can I do a arcane law check to see if I can
100% do
what
that.
the fuck is going on?
Hey, Elias. I reckon I got the impression that boy might be magic.
I do believe you are probably correct. I succeeded, but not in a great manner.
You think this is actually essentially a spell that has done... Obviously, it's obviously a spell that's done this. But you kind of have an idea of what this spell might have been. A very powerful spell that you've read about in your books. It's called Unchain the World Eater.
Oh my god.
And it essentially creates a massive area of effect. Earthquake in the area raises all buildings in it, essentially.
Am I able to do a shit got real check?
100%.
It's a great success.
You need to roll. You need to roll under 100.
Advantage on those. You have advantage on those.
My dice actually landed on a point.
Nice.
So
roll of infinity, lose.
No, that means that all possible answers happen simultaneously.
Oh,
Jack,
God.
I want to run to the other buildings and attempt to try and get other people up.
Yep, 100%. That's fine. Just give me some strength checks.
I'm good at those. That's a 4, so that is another great success.
You are very good at these.
I'm very good at those.
It's advantage, so.
I do have advantage.
You do. So yeah, you managed to save some more people, kind of help them get out of the rubble. You can see people coming out from underneath. There's people that are coming out of the storerooms that are like white from all the kind of dust from the salt, who just are like covered, crusted in it, essentially.
I will refrain from doing any form of heavy lifting, but I will tend to wounds.
Cool. Yep. Give
Jack,
me
is
some.
the boy with the broken leg one still on the bed, or is he gone as well?
That's actually a very good point.
He is gone. He is completely crushed under the rubble.
That's no good.
Grandel is standing in the middle of the street, and he's just kind of spaced out, staring forlornly at his pint glass, which is full of this sort of dust and salt sludge mixed with his beer.
Something in your pack feels slightly warm.
Warm. Okay. So I can feel it coming through my back. Yeah.
Yep. Not like it's on fire or anything. Like
No,
it's as
just
if
as a
someone's
noticeable
put someone's put like a hot water bottle in your backpack, for instance.
Okay. So I sort of look around to see who's paying attention. Everybody's basically focused on rescue and retrieval. I find the nearest sort of dark little cubby hole of, there's still half a wall left here and another sort of quarter of a wall. And
You can find you can find somewhere that's kind of it's nighttime now, so it's quite easy to find
cool. So
in the ruins of some building.
I open my pack in such a way that I'm like, if there's anything going to give off light inside it, no one would see it because the way I'm shielding it.
Yeah.
And I look and see what it is.
There's no light coming out of the pack, but when you kind of put your hand in, there's a smooth spherical object which is giving off heat.
Yeah, I lift it out and look at it.
So it's the item that you acquired from your dwarf clan. That is the reason why you're on the road.
Yes. It's giving off heat.
Just like kind of it seems to be, as you hold it, it kind of feels like it's dying down again, but it definitely was hot. You can kind of the stuff in your bag is kind of warm where it's warmed the stuff in your bag. Yeah, so essentially this is the kind of the really old artifact that you found and you kind of kept for yourself, and is the reason why you left the other dwarves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't remember what it was in terms of
it's
for the
essentially
audience
like
as well, like description of it.
Yeah, so it's a small kind of fist-sized spherical box that doesn't appear to have a clasp, but definitely has a hinge. And you just can't open it. You've tried everything.
Yeah.
You've tried picking this probably every day since you've had it, and you cannot get it open. And you kind of just thought it looked really cool. It's got really beautiful scroll work all over it, and it's made out of a metal that you've not seen before, and it's like old. Like it's obviously real old. Like way in the height of the gods kind of old.
So obviously I've got it out of the pack now. It's still giving off this heat.
Yeah.
Is there any change in its appearance from what I've seen before? Is like, are the hinges at all different? Is there suddenly a keyhole? Now that it's giving off.
Yeah.
this
Give
heat?
me detection.
Okay, that is a 5, which I believe is a great success.
And that's what you needed. So yeah, it does look like some of the scroll work has slightly changed. Like the actual design has shifted somehow.
Okay, is it floral or is it like architectural scrolling or?
No, it's kind of vines, kind of wrapping over each other. I feel like if you it's a sort of thing. It looks like someone has designed it to look like a kind of little ball of like vines all wrapped around something inside.
Okay, I want to like run my fingers over the surface of it and see if there's any like places where maybe the vines have shifted. Maybe they wrapped over each other and now they don't, or something like that. Can I find something that like manipulates that? Like, is there a way to make the vines change sort of shape or track?
Do traps and locks. That makes a lot of sense because that's essentially it is you looking for a way to open it. So
yeah. I am not doing very well. So that is. I'm just looking to get under my dex modifier, aren't I? Under my dex score.
Score. Yeah.
Though I do not. It's an 18. It's close.
So
it is a failure.
Yeah. No, you can't.
Actually, can I do a luck?
You can use your reroll.
I can use my reroll.
Your one singular reroll.
What's the luck? We talked about this.
That's for saves.
That's for saves.
That's just for saves. Okay.
Your reroll would allow you to.
I don't want to blow my reroll on the first episode.
Is Grundle close enough to me that I might be able to get some tingles from this?
He's moved away from you, but you don't feel anything. There's nothing in the air. But yeah, no. So you don't find anything that you think might help you open it at the moment.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I replace it in my my sort of satchel and make sure it's wrapped up nicely and it's not like.
Yeah.
I push it up against the back of it where it would be against my back, so that if it does get hot again, I can feel it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nice, I like that. So Bex, as you kind of stood in the middle of town, a bit like shell shocked by the whole thing, I suppose. I would imagine.
Sorry, Nyla.
Yeah, Nyla.
Sorry, yeah. So yeah, probably standing around like trying to help, but just being a little bit confused as to what the hell is happening.
Yeah, 100%. So as you're kind of helping people out of the rubble and stuff, you kind of feel something rub up against your leg, and it's Bear, who's kind of walked into town, obviously concerned about you.
I throw my arms around him and I give him a big hug, and I go, "Oh, buddy, I'm glad you're okay. What the hell do we do?" I'm just gonna like in a tits.
Yeah, he just kind of, he kind of rubs his face against yours as you crouch down to see him, and like you kind of notice that everybody is kind of like for just a moment, even in the midst of this absolute madness, as he pushes his face against yours, and he kind of pushes the hood back, like everyone in town is like, "Shit, that's an elf," like because. Like, legitimately, Elias, you've never seen an elf. Like, you have read about elves, and you know they exist, but you have never seen one. Nobody in this town has ever seen an elf before. Not in the flesh.
I'm just gonna, like, when I see people looking at me, I'm just gonna stop panicking, and I'm gonna throw my hood up and, like, cloak around me, so I'm, like, covered as possible. And then I'm gonna look at Bear and be like, "Oh, God, I'm kind of exposed here, so I'm gonna try and find somewhere to sort of hunker down for a second until everyone's gone, so I can try and sneak away."
Yep.
Young miss, you there? With the very impressive tiger.
I'm gonna turn around. I've got my club drawn, and I'm just like, "Don't come near me."
I've read of your kind, and I was wondering if you could do me something to aid these people.
What do you mean?
My understanding is that your people are very familiar with the the plants of the forest. Would you be able to retrieve me some healing herbs?
Yeah. Yes. I can totally do that. I can do that.
Yes, please hurry. These people have some wounds that need tending, and I am short on salve.
Before he even stops talking, I'm just gonna start bolting.
Excuse me, miss.
I pull the club out again, and I'm just gonna be like, I'm warning you, stay away.
I hold both hands up. Right. You want to be very careful in the forest. No one really goes into the forest. People don't tend to come back out of the forest.
What do you mean?
I don't know. It's just very dangerous in the forest. You just want to be just go steady, all right? Just go real steady.
I'm gonna exchange a look with Bear, and then look back at Gary, and just sort of go, okay. Thank you.
Do you need someone to just make sure you're all right?
And then I think Gary's gonna start growling at you.
Do you need someone to take care of that tiger for you? Because I've got these axes, and is it bothering you or anything?
Bear pause, and I'm just gonna put my hand on his head and just say, "It's okay, Bear. No, he's good to me."
Oh, is he like a pet or something? Is he?
Yeah.
I had a pet once, right? And then I had it in my pocket.
Away.
I'm telling you a story about my pet.
I've been told to do a task, so I'm running.
I turn back to Elias. We better go with her. She ain't gonna come back if she goes into that forest.
What do you propose we do with all of the injured?
Well, whether we stay here or not, they're still going to be injured by the time she comes back. So either we could send her off and one person dies, or I could just show out there's safe bits of the forest. I know the forest a little bit, but there's bits of the forest you just don't go in.
Sure. Lead the way.
I'll start following her into the forest, I guess.
Cool. The forest is kind of an hour's walk away. The town isn't on the edge of the forest. It's a little bit away because it's obviously a dangerous forest. Grandel, what are you going to do? Because you will see them kind of running off quite loudly.
Yeah, I absolutely follow them.
The gentleman that's been following us this whole time you seem quite handy. Would you like to join us?
All right, well, you can come with us, but just remember, I saw her first, and it's just my call, all right?
Right.
Good. Understood. All right, come on in, little man.
Don't call me little man.
So you kind of head towards the forest. It won't be too hard to catch up with Nyla. Sure, I suppose, Nyla, you'll see them kind of following behind you and kind of waving and being like, we're coming with you. How do you... Cool. So you do kind of wait for them.
Yeah. I was tempted to just try and run as fast as I can, but I can't maintain that for an hour.
No, you cannot.
I will slow down and sort of think even though it wasn't looking at me weird, and it'd be safer to talk to a small group of people than to try it. And also they were there when the boy fell through the earth.
Yeah.
So it could be interesting to sort of ask what the heck happened. So I'll slow down, but I'll still stay a few steps ahead just in case. I'm still very nervous.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I'm gonna keep Bear basically to heal, so he's right next to me, and I will just start talking, I guess, and just so what happened? What happened to that boy? And then there was a noise, and then the boy wasn't there.
It seems the young lad was a very powerful magic user, but was untrained in the arts, was unable to control it.
And the ground swallowed him up.
Yes, very much so.
Right.
Tragedy, really.
It's how I'd want to go.
But the very reason why I was sent here to fetch the boy, so he could be trained to control his power.
Oh, well, noble, I guess. But what happened to make everything fall down?
That was the byproduct of the magical energy he was channeling.
Magic can do that?
It can, to the untrained, yes.
And you could do that? I'm going to take like a couple of quick steps to get further away from him.
I've been trained to control the magic I wield, and I must slowly but surely unlock its powers. That is not the level I can achieve in a controlled manner. So no, I would be unwilling to unleash that kind of power.
Don't be trying any of your fancy spell experiments on me, lad.
Yeah. Well, I've not been out of the forest for very long. Does this kind of thing happen often?
Not in this town. No, it's generally quite sleepy. Quite a sleepy little town.
I've only just arrived, so I couldn't say otherwise.
May I say that's it's a marvelous beast that you travel with, milady.
Oh, I thought you were talking about my beard.
That is a marvelous beard, but we'll discuss that later.
Thank you.
What is this tiger's name?
Oh, this is Marathir or Bear, I call it.
But it's not. It's a tiger.
Yes, that is
What?
true.
But it's not a bear though, is it?
Marathir is an elven.
Have you not
Name.
seen a bear before?
Oh, believe me, I've seen bears.
But this is a tiger.
I'm going to look at Bear, and then look back at Gary, and then look at Bear, and then look at Gary, and just be like, you're very astute.
Oh, thank you very much.
He does raise a valid point, but it does seem he is an imbecile.
Aye, that's the word I'd use.
Thank you very much. Pretty sure I know what that means, but yeah, I'm assuming it's a nice thing. Thank you very much. That's very nice of you to say, actually. You've been very kind since I met you.
Under my breath, I'm just going to say, Jacket. And then I'm going to, like, just walk. Not knowing who the hell these people are and what they want and what they... Oh, gosh. Because I've been told stories about their races, and so far they are holding up all the stereotypes that I've heard about them.
Pretty much.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, none of you come off very well, so, take from that what you will.
Yeah, so you travel for an hour or so, and you begin to reach the edge of the forest. It's like the middle of the night now, and it's getting really dark. It is a new moon, and as such, you can't. Yeah, it gets to a point where you can't really go on without a source of light.
Knowing what I do about the wilderness, I would probably. It might be pertinent for us to not go in the dark.
No, I definitely wouldn't recommend it. Jack, do I still have my my lumberjack shack?
Yes, it's actually the quickest route into the woods is kind of past your shack, so you're actually not that far away from it.
Oh well, let's go to my place. It's nothing fancy, but it's a nice warm. I could set the fire up. I've got one bed.
Do you have any alcohol, laddie?
I've actually started to make a little concoction of my very own out the back. I went blind for a few days. Once.
So it's good stuff then.
Absolutely.
Sounds fine to me, lad. Lead the way.
I lead the way.
Yeah, so you'll kind of approach this tumble-down shack. It's basically a couple of rooms strung together in the middle of the nowhere next to an absolutely monumental pile of wood. And kind of just like next to this monumental pile of wood is the big axe in a tree stump. Yeah, so you can kind of go into this little shack, and like I say, you can light a fire and you can kind of sit around the fire for a few hours. It's kind of the middle of the night now, so it won't be too long until it starts to get light again. You've only got maybe an hour, 2 hours at the most to kind of wait until you'll start being able to see again. Elias, you won't be able to see for a little bit longer than that, but the rest of them will be able to see relatively well, at least in a couple of hours or so.
So I'm assuming we're not going to have a little sleep.
It might be a good idea just to get maybe an hour or two, given that we only have a couple of hours until the sun starts coming up. I'll just suggest we have a little bit of maybe a doze, or just,
Chill out time.
Yeah, just chill out.
Just some time to kind of take in what has just happened.
Yeah.
Because I think you're probably all in like a little bit of shock, to be honest, still, from the event. You're all probably a bit ramped up, running on adrenaline a little bit.
Grandal is out next to the giant pile of wood. He's just taken the axe out of the tree stump and he's just comparing the weight of it to his axe and trying like a few sort of random swipes in the air, that kind
It
of
is
thing.
far too big for you.
Yeah.
Like, for you, it's a great axe. Like,
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, and then he holds it in both hands and tries swinging it around.
yeah, it's got a good weight to it.
Yeah, please don't break it. I'll hand out some rations. I'll just try and cook them as best I can. I'll try and be as hospitable as possible in this very humble little home I have.
You hear a loud thunk from outside as Grandol slams this great axe back into the tree stump. And he walks back inside as this is happening and says, there was mention of booze.
Yeah, sure. I'll get these little jam jars out, hand one over to him. Go nuts. Like, it's...
So is this just like a normal jam jar size?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so it's still kind of a little bit big for Grandol.
Yeah.
He sort of
How tiny
sniffs
are you?
it and inspects it and takes a glug and pounds about half of it in one go.
Do a con save.
Nice.
I mean, I'll make the stuff from tree sap, so make of that what you will.
So that is a success, but not a great one.
Yeah, cool. You kind of like go from it, but it's all right.
Very smooth. I like it.
Yeah, yeah, it's all right. It's all right. It's not my best work.
And
Listen, I'm gonna head off to bed. You guys, make yourselves home. I'll see you guys when the sun comes up in a couple of hours. And I head off to bed.
What are you doing, the rest of you?
I want to like nose around the shack a little bit because like I'm kind of intrigued by the half-scorn because I've obviously heard of them, but I have no idea what they're about except that I know they're. Well, I've been told by my grandmother. She told me that they were like vicious and like would kill you and not just look at you. And this guy seems like not that. So I'm just looking around to see like, is this normal? So I'm just gonna see what he's got around and be nosy, I guess.
Grandel, what are you up to?
Grandel takes his remaining half of a jam jar outside. He sits down on the steps and just kind of stares up at the stars and lights a pipe, which he smokes while he sips this moonshine.
Elias, what are you up to?
Sleeping.
Nice. Kind of find yourself a little corner and kind of just pull your robes around you and get a bit of shut eye.
I cast a whole spell.
Ooh.
I'm pooped.
What do you cast?
Is that what the spell calls?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Sorry. You have cast a spell.
I kind of imagine even such a simple spell as the one I cast.
Oh,
would be
100%. Yeah.
taxing.
It will be taxing,
Like, yeah, I go to sleep.
Yep. You're out like a light.
Mm.
So Bex, as you're kind of nosy about this little shack of Gary's, you're kind of amazed because if it wasn't for the fact that it's on the ground and like it's not like, you know, in the trees like you're accustomed to, this could be a very poor elf, admittedly, but it could be an elf's house. Like it's you know, it's kind of like, you know, there's chairs and tables and there's a place where a fire goes and there's pots and things to cook with, and there's like, you know, odd little homely bits and bobs that he's obviously collected over time. But yeah, it's really it's strange, and like, you know, and other things that strike you as strange is the fact that like there's this human that's literally in the same room as you who's just kind of just gone to sleep right there in front of you, has made no attempt to like warn you off or kind of hasn't threatened you at all since you've been here, and it does kind of take you by surprise a little bit that that's the case.
It's been a hell of a day, Jack. I just don't know what to do with all this information.
Yeah, you're overwhelmed.
I'm really overwhelmed. I'm gonna like take out my little notebook and I'm gonna just write a couple of like sentences, like human seems fine, half-scorn, WTF. But in Elvish, obviously. I mean, he had things and he didn't hurt me. And I think he was hitting on me, maybe? Felt weird. And then I'm going to put at the end, just write, dwarf as expected.
Scottish.
Yeah.
Probably a
My
Yeah.
work here is done. Thank you very much.
So
Yeah.
and then I'll settle down and just trance for a bit.
Yeah, I kind of imagine you kind of like, you know, kind of stood in a corner with Bear kind of wrapped around your feet almost. Yeah, and so you kind of, you know, after this kind of crazy, like kind of meeting and like few hours actually, like, you know, you kind of met in the early evening and now it's kind of like, you know, the dawn's a few hours away and you're in this shack on the way to the forest to collect some healing herbs to kind of help a town that has been razed to the ground by a young boy casting magic that shouldn't be possible. As you kind of lie there, either trying to get to sleep or, you know, kind of just in your thoughts, you just can't help but think that this is going to be the start of a very odd day tomorrow. Hi everyone, it's Jack here. Just wanted to say thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it and come back for the next episode. That will be going out in 2 weeks, which should be the 13th of December. One more thing before I let you go. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, all that stuff. We're on Twitter as well. You can search for Nothing Adventure, Nothing Gained. It's all one word, I think, on Instagram and Twitter. And please, if you are tweeting about us, talking about us, commenting, etc., use hashtag NANG or hashtag NANGcast, so Nangcast. Thanks again. We really hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have a great night, day, whenever you're listening to this. But most of all, thank you. We really appreciate you listening and we hope you enjoyed it.